Welcome, Tiny Hands Big Dreams, here in our off-grid homestead in southern Ecuador. So today we're going to get into the common question of how do I go off-grid? Gosh, we see it all the time on the forums of like, where do I start? What do I do? I want to go off-grid. I have that idyllic dream. Well, we're going to tell you. So we are off-grid here. It is not our final answer. It is we're somewhere between um, existing and our final answer. There's the building of our entire property and our house and our things and our stuff. So you're going to get to see that journey if you watch with us. But we're trying to give out at least the core knowledge of where do you start, because it can be a little daunting. The first place that I would say to start is decide what you want. Really, really important. Just like have a vision, have a moment, and think about what you want it to look like. And this differs. Our version is not your version. It doesn't have to be. Everybody's is different. There's
And the important thing that we always tell people is make sure that everyone is in agreement and on the same page. So if you're a single person and you're going off grid, that's just you. That's pretty easy. Unless you have voices in your head, it's not hard. But we have watched many couples fail in multiple ways,
and
fall
it's
apart, different dreams, different end goals, and there's typically one person saying, "Oh yeah, that's fine," and it really wasn't, and it doesn't end well. So I always stress that in all of these decisions to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
it is a common point of failure.
Mm-hmm.
So once you have your vision, and the vision can be anything from a hut on the plains of Africa, yeah, in a desert. It could be, a normal kind of looking house nestled up in the mountains somewhere. It could be a giant, beautiful mansion somewhere by the beach.
I mean, off grid by definition just means you're responsible for your own power and water. So it's a very basic definition. Most people sort of extrapolate that out to mean a little bit more self sufficiency, and usually a little bit more of a remote lifestyle, but it can mean anything. So decide what that means to you and what you want it to be. Because you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you're going.
It's true. So we chose a more difficult answer. We are way away from anything. We're at the edge of the Amazon jungle, up in the mountains. So we're responsible for everything. We are our own guy for everything. When something goes wrong, I'm the guy. It doesn't matter what it is, unless it's something that she does. Then it's something that she does.
That being said, I mean, we're not there yet. So don't think we have this all worked out. We know where we're headed and we know how to get there, but we're not there yet. As far as the utilities aspect, yes, we are very much off grid. We do use propane. We do use gas for the generator. We just had to turn off to film this video. It's very rainy.
So much rain.
So much rain. We still buy most of our food because we are still working on building the property. So we're not there yet, but our goal is to be basically completely self-sufficient, if need be. And of
right
course,
down to animal food,
yeah,
which is a common one that's missed. Of like, oh, I have this, I have all these animals in this tiny space. Like, you can't feed them from that area. You're just buying feed from the feed store. So in our realm of that's not, you're still on the grid because you're relying on the grid for critical supplies on a very short basis. But
so
it's open to your own interpretation. It's whatever you want. The goal is for you to be happy and however you want it.
So once you figure out what that goal is, then the question is, how do I get there? What do I do? How do I start? What?
Dream specifically. Like really put down like not just the house. How do you want to live? How do you move around? What do you do? Do you farm? Do you things?
Do you want to live without power? Some people do. Some people want candlelight and they want to go get their water from a creek and boil it on the stove to take a shower. If that's what you want, know that, and then you'll know your steps to get there. Yeah, it's whatever you want.
So maybe the good way to go through this is to give our example from our journey to go off grid. So we were previously, at least in this country, we had rented a house, normal house, edge of city. It's fine, it's whatever. And we bought this property, and the property had nothing. It had trees and grass.
And a questionable sort of structure we're sitting on top of.
It did have a basic structure, which was some trees crudely chopped, stuck in the mud, and a bit of metal roof put on the top.
That was it.
That was it. So for us to get what we wanted, and we defined our adventure, we were like, we can start pretty crude, but there were some real like, no, we're just not going to enjoy the experience if we don't have a few certain things.
And that also is something that you have to be on the same page about. I simply said these are things that like I can be okay with sleeping in a tent, but I want a hot shower. These are things that were important to me, and I knew that we would do better having those things. It would be a better experience. We would all be happier.
So for us,
and there's something to be said for that.
Right. We had tents. Okay, we could live in tents. The tents had to be put on decks because of the rainfall. So we just built little platforms. That was part of preparing for this location.
And this was all done before we moved ourselves here. Right. These were all things that we needed in place before we physically moved ourselves, our animals, our family to the property. So this was all being done
somewhere else.
And hauling parts of it here and working long days.
Right. So let's see. So we had the other things that were super important. Working toilet. Look, if an outhouse is like totally cool with you, that's cool. If a bucket is your style,
go for it.
Go for it. We did not want to poop in a bucket or deal with the bucket. That's us.
We also live somewhere warm, which dictates a good portion of this.
We did. But
because
I'm like, you know what? I'm handy. I can build stuff. Septic system? I can build that. It's a toilet, it's plumbing, it's a septic tank, it's a drain field. You know what? I got this. So that was on our list of criticals of we want a real toilet. We want a hot shower. We needed a working kitchen.
We needed running water. Clean running water.
We don't eat out. We only have our own food. So we needed the water, the kitchen.
Power.
Kitchen meant we had to have power. Okay. Yeah. Now we prepped a lot of this stuff we bought. I put a whole solar kit together, and that is its own video, as is a lot of these pieces. We're gonna break all the pieces out because they really are their own video. The solar, the water,
there were others.
There's a bunch of others. We're gonna break all the pieces down in future videos. Otherwise, this one would just get too lengthy. But I pre-built an entire solar system. I pre-assembled it somewhat. When we brought it here, I just sort of deployed it. Boom, we have power.
And that was the first step. Our first full day here was to put the solar panels up. And it just a couple hours and we were ready to go. So yeah, that was a big part of it, was just having everything set up in place before we showed up.
So it was,
Which made a much smoother transition.
We did. So we have power at this new property that we bought. We have this structure. We moved a fridge, an oven, a freezer, a one-piece sink, stainless steel like commercial looking sink thing. We're like, that counts as a kitchen with a folding table. So we moved these pieces in. I got the plumbing in for the septic. Cool. Hot shower. We got a little hot water heater, a little instantaneous unit. I had to do the water system and get water to come to our house, be filtered, sanitized. That's it. We have achieved our initial basic sustained life objectives. That was for us, for this property. And then that's it. The family moves, the animals move, all of our stuff moves.
And then it's much easier to go from there and perfect all those systems and add, and then you make 1,000 more lists of all of the next steps to get to the final dream. But I think that our transition was relatively smooth, given our crazy situation. It was a pretty smooth transition because we knew what to expect. And I think that that's something I tell people a lot, is to have your expectations and make sure that you're all on the same page. And then there isn't that like, well, I don't know, and well, do we have a hot shower? And then there's the uncomfortable of like going and digging a hole somewhere, those things. For us, that wasn't something we wanted to do, so we all knew what to expect when we moved, and I think that eased a little bit of the stress of that particular day.
We all had our basic needs met, and we were honest with our basic needs, with each of us like had to have, so things didn't go sideways, and we got it, and we were happy.
Yep.
So, what else is on here? So that was right. So that's our steps. Now, again, go back to think about your existence and all of the things. Walk yourself through your day and this and that. And you're like, oh, I really want this. Work that in, and those choices then start to dictate all of the rest of the steps, and those steps just turn into lists and action items, and all of a sudden it all breaks down, and now it's just some preparation and some work and some things, and it's a doable thing, even if you have to learn everything.
And I think that's important. I mean, we intend to do a video soon on skills we think are important before endeavoring on this. But I think that before you even try to build the skills, you need to know what you need to know. Mm-hmm. And there's so many people out there who don't know that they need to know something, or that they don't know something.
They'll ask that exact question of, what do I need to know?
I'm like, well, what do you want? Because it depends. Where do you live? What do you want out of life? What are your goals? Because you might be a vegetarian, and then you don't need to know how to butcher an animal. That would be pointless information for you to find. So I definitely think the first step is always going to be figure out what you want.
Very important. Very important. Expectations. They teach that in a lot of business school. If you meet a customer's expectations that have been set, then you have succeeded. And if you fail to do that, whether they're right or wrong, then you will fail. So learn to figure out your own expectations, and those of your family. So yeah, that's the first step. That's how you get started.
So now that once we met all of our expectations and we showed up here, we're like, okay, well, now it's chapter 2. Let's go.
Everything gets improved. Bigger solar system, more stuff. Let's build this
it doesn't
house.
End there.
Let's build paths. Let's fix this. Let's plant fruit trees. Let's put pigs.
So we want to walk everyone through kind of those first steps to get to the point of, okay, now I can start chapter 2. So we're gonna
chapter 1 is the hardest to start.
It definitely is, and it's overwhelming. So we want to try to help anyone who's really interested in being off grid. Just know how to even know what you don't know, so that you can do the research and learn the skills, and it will be a much more enjoyable experience to go off grid.
All right. Well, thanks for watching. Hope to see you for the next one.